What's up guys, Readiness Rations here with you again. We are going to be digging into a vintage US meal ready to eat today. This brown bag MRE menu is beef stew, and apparently this particular meal kit is a veteran of the Desert Storm conflict. Hopefully the contents are still edible, but we are certainly going to find out in this video. Before we get this one open, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help it out with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future military ration review content, including really old rations. Drop me a comment letting me know what ration you would like to see me review next. Now let's crack open another brown bag. So as I said, this is beef stew, which at the time was menu number 5. This was packed by Sopatco. I want to say a big thank you to Military Surplus Carbine Collector for sending this ration my way. He has his very own firearms YouTube channel, which I will link down in the description of this video. He picked this ration up locally and thought it would be fun to send my way. This MRE also came with a story. Apparently its previous owner worked for a commercial airline back during the Desert Storm conflict. This meal, along with 5 others, were left behind on that airplane by US soldiers. So it would appear this MRE has been all over the world. Looks like we have a package of freeze-dried pears. Vacuum sealing those still seems perfect. A very tightly vacuumed package of crackers. A tiny Meal Combat individual style spoon. We have our box for the main entree. Not the most ridiculous ingredients list. And interestingly enough, this was distributed by Del Monte, copyright 1986. Division of Nabisco Brands. That's pretty cool. Yeah, buddy. Cherry nut cake. Date of production, 327th day of 1987, coming in at 3.2 ounces. It has been a long time since I've had one of these, and I'm looking forward to it. We have an old school foil accessory package. We'll dig into that in just a moment. Oh no, 1.5 ounces of cheese spread. MRE cheese spread from the 80s is my nemesis. At least this one still feels nice and squishy. Beverage base powder orange, 1.2 ounces. This feels about half solidified, pretty hard in places, but still powdery in others. Now let's check out this accessory package. Instant coffee type 1, cream substitute, dry, non-dairy, 4 ounces of iodized salt, 6 grams of sugar, a 2-pack of spearmint chewing gum, light green pack of matches with whitish tips, and a Toughco branded MRE toilet paper pack. This MRE is from the time before the flameless ration heater, so in order to heat our entree up, we'll have to boil it. The retort pouch for our beef stew here looks absolutely perfect. Shiny with no signs of delamination. Let's get this one heating and everything else plated up. I suppose we'll get our coffee instant type 1 going first. That is a super fine coffee powder. Coffee instant type 1 is a spray dry coffee, and that's why the powder is basically like moon dust. It looks fantastic. It smells fantastic. Let's see how our non-dairy creamer is faring. Well, it's still in powder form. Powder looks nice and white. Let's give that ye old taste test. Little bit old tasting, but not too bad. Usually I would skip this, but today I think we'll use it. And we'll follow that up with our full 6 grams of sugar. I still decided to go a little shy of 8 ounces. Open up our spoon here. Check out this little dude. These are actually a pretty strong plastic construction. They're so short though. Coffee's looking a little bit chunky. It's too hot to drink right now anyway, so perhaps those chunks will disappear by the time we get around to it. Next up is our beverage base powder orange. Oh boy. That's not a good sign. Oh, that is a crumply mess in there. That has certainly seen better days. Check out how it formed those little balls of drink powder. There's some discoloration going on too, but that may just be moisture absorption. I will try a piece of this just as is. It doesn't smell good. It has a tang-like aroma, but with sort of an old B vitamin kind of smell too. And chewy, sweet and tart. In dried form, this is actually pretty good. That surprised the heck out of me. I guess we will try to rehydrate it then. Pick off as much of this stuck on powder as we can. Look at that big old clump. The rest of that is just stuck where it is. Just like a modern day MRE, these drink powders are for 12 ounces of water. I'm gonna start with like 4 to 6. Since we're using such a short-handled spoon, I can actually get in there and stir kind of vigorously. It's making a nice orange drink color, maybe a little darker than normal. There are lots of undissolved chunks though, and now that I got that started, we'll put some more water in it. and that's about the appropriate amount. Now our spoon is essentially completely submerged. You know, that actually looks pretty decent for what it looked like before adding water to it. I made a bit of a mess here, so let's take a look at our toilet paper. Looks like this paper is all individual sheets. We'll grab a couple of those and wipe up our tray. This paper is very coarse. I would hate to have to use this in the way it's intended. Coarse and at the same time thin. Not good. I think we've earned a sip of our coffee here. Looks nice and light. And now that the water's hit that creamer, it's off-putting a little bit of a chemical smell. Let's taste it. That's hot. It's good. Sweet, creamy, mild. I think I may have put a little more water than I probably should have because it doesn't really have all that powerful of a coffee taste. Coffee Instant Type 1 is far better black than creamed, but for a cup of joe from 1987, this is pretty darn good. Let's crack open these crackers. Nice vacuum pop on those. Corners are a bit crumbly, but we have two wonderfully toasted MRE crackers here. They smell fairly decent. Now for our cherry nut cake. Very simple ingredients on this. The small little retort pouch looks really nice, although it's tearing sort of weird. So slick and shiny. The corners are smushed to an edge. This smells like straight up maraschino cherries. Look at how slick and shiny this thing is. Man, I'm looking forward to trying that out. With these old school MREs, I typically save the cheese spread till last because this stuff usually reeks and stinks the house up pretty bad. As far as cheese spread goes though, this one feels surprisingly decent. So I think we will go ahead and see how it's doing. It's sort of grayed, definitely browned. Not what cheese spread should look like. Yeah, that smells about like brown bag cheese spread. I'm gonna be honest here, I've encountered much worse in the smell department. Usually when you run into this old cheese spread, the texture is not nearly this nice. It's gonna start with just the smallest amount first to see how I'll react. Cheese spread from 1987. Here we go. Oh. It is nasty. Look, I've had worse. No one in their right mind should be eating this though. Let's get another bite here. It's super sharp and pungent with a little bit of added in chemical flavor and a ton of salt. After that second bite, it might be growing on me just a little bit. We'll go back in for a third bite here. A lot of times with this old cheese spread, I get this sort of burning sensation in my mouth. I might feel a little bit of numbness on my tongue. I'm not feeling any of that with this. So after 3 small tastings, I'm gonna say this stuff is edible. Is it tasty? No. I would not consider this a delectable treat of any sort. It is well past its best by, but still edible. I think so. Poop out a little bit on the cracker here. That's a healthy amount to try. Let's give it a shot on the cracker. Oh yeah. That cracker is crisp and delicious. That was kind of a lot of cheese spread though. And that flavor is pretty much overpowering anything the cracker imparted besides the crunch. Hey, I'm not complaining though. Meant for soldiers, back in Desert Storm, and still edible today in 2023. That is pretty wild. So good in fact, I think I'm going to cheese up this entire cracker. Look at that color. It looks nothing like a fresh cheese spread. It doesn't really taste anything like it either. This is its own beast for sure. Spread it on out here. She's not pretty, but I think this is the oldest cheese spread I've ever run across that I would still consider edible. It has a little bit of a dirty sock kind of smell, but all things considered, it's pretty okay. One last bite. Down the hatch. I hope my shirt doesn't become a reality after that one. Our beef stew has been thoroughly boiled, and there she is, steaming hot. This smells quite good. Pour it out here. Now that looks super fresh. It's really hard to believe this is as old as it is. We have our chunks of beef here in these old beef stews. It is 100% real pieces of beef roast. It looks to be nice and tender. It's breaking apart with a spoon easily. We can see our individual muscle fibers of the beef roast. We have some green peas. Some of those are a little bit squished, but others are a little bit more whole. We have some carrot chunks and a few pieces of potato. The potato appears to be more broken down than some of the other vegetable matter. Some of the potato is just a white mush at this point. Pretty standard beef stew like sauce, a little bit jiggly, nice and thickened. Meat, peas, potato, Desert Storm beef stew. Here we go. Now that tastes pretty decent. I think we'll try out this big chunk of meat. The meat's a little bit dry, but nice and tender. This is a very mild tasting dish. There's no off flavors whatsoever. It tastes completely normal, but I'm a little bit disappointed in the seasoning. It doesn't really taste like too much. If you get a bite with carrot and pea, that imparts a little bit of sweetness, but the overall flavor profile of this is a very neutral, savory flavor. It looks a lot like a canned beef stew, like a Dinty Moore, but it doesn't really have that signature canned beef stew flavor. The sauce is basically like a thickened beef broth. I do enjoy the distribution of meat in this. It is quite meaty. It's a rare occurrence, but I think this is a menu that'll benefit from salt. Don't want to put too much on it. About half the salt pack there. And let's see if that livened it up at all. That is a good looking bite. The salt helps a lot. It brings out that savoriness and amplifies it even more. It makes the flavor of the carrots and the peas just that much more predominant. But since we have a cracker included in the meal, I think beef stew on a cracker is probably the way to go. Let's give that one a shot. Yeah, now things are coming together. This was a menu that I was feeling a little bit disappointed in, but now that I've added salt and a cracker, I'm enjoying myself. Pretty darn good. If I was ranking this on freshness, it is a 10 out of 10. Absolutely amazing. It has no indication of being old whatsoever. Our orange drink has completely dissolved at this point. It's a little darker in color than your modern day orange. Let's give that a try. A little tart. Pretty sweet. It's not as tang-like as I thought it would be by tasting the powder. The water definitely mellowed out the taste. It has a little bit of an astringent feel in the mouth, but I think this orange drink is pretty much 100% too. Despite how it appeared, that's a really good ration drink. Good enough to finish at least. I can't wait for this nut cake any longer, so let's open that up. Very soft. Look at that distribution of fruit and nuts to cake. It's like a 50-50 ratio. The nuts don't look like they've darkened at all. Everything is still a nice pale color. This is one of those items that you might only get a chance to try once or twice in your lifetime. Let's see how this one is. Very dense cake, super sweet. The absolute most dominant flavor is that flavor of a candied maraschino cherry. The nuts add a slight bit of crunch to it, but very little flavor. The cake part is really just a binder to hold everything together. 2 bites in, and I'm not feeling any numbness in my mouth. No burning sensation. It's looking like this MRE is batting 1,000, because this is the freshest tasting nut cake I've ever had. These nut cakes are a truly vintage MRE item. Production of these ceased pretty early on. You'll pretty much only run across them in your MREs from the 80s. And as we know, most MREs from the 80s are no longer completely edible. This is one of the first items to go. So this, along with the cheese, really is a testament of how fantastic of the condition of this particular meal kit was. Last thing to try here is our freeze-dried pears. I saved these for last because as soon as you break the seal on it, the texture starts changing, and it is in absolute prime condition right now, just after opening. It's broken up into some chunks here. Super white, so not only does this sound like styrofoam, it looks almost identical to styrofoam. We can see some of our little pieces of pear in there. I think they made these from canned pears. There we go. That is crunchy. Crisp. As soon as the moisture in your mouth hits it, it starts to dissolve and turn into like a canned pears in syrup. One day there will be no more of these MRE freeze-dried fruits left in the world, and that would be a sad day because these are really good. And that was the review. Menu number 5, beef stew. I want to say another huge thank you to Military Surplus Carbine Collector at Rusty Surplus for sending this my way to check out. This has to be one of the absolute best conditioned brown bags I've ever had the opportunity to review. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. That helps us out with the algorithm. If you know someone else that might find this content enjoyable, please share it because that helps the channel grow more than anything else. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos, and drop me a comment letting me know what you thought about the review. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.